Green Lantern, issue 7, legacy number 543. Jeremy Adams writing with a Mankey and Hulpin on the art. So, this issue is mostly a flashback. Obviously, we had that reveal last issue at the end that Kilowog has not been alive. Jordan's been talking to a construct this entire time. So this is basically the flashback to how he died. It also fills in a little bit of this United Planet stuff. We get a bit more context around that, which is interesting. We see all of the lanterns, all the Earth lanterns. You know, Jess is there, Baz, Guy, Kyle. They're all there with the main pair right now, which is Hal and John, because they're the ones with the books.
Yep.
And they're basically waiting for the United Planets people to show up and like give them what their orders are. This is back when the changeover was happening. And this is where they ban Sector 2814. They're quarantining it because they've got enough of their own heroes and so many problems come from that planet that we're just cordoning it off.
I don't disagree with the United Planets decision here. However, from reading other books with Theros in it, the Durlin guy, it seems to be coming from a bad place now.
Yeah,
it's
corruption in politics rather than actual, fair logic. But
sometimes the corrupted policy does have its root in something that makes sense.
I mean, you can't really argue that Earth has a ton of superheroes. The Green Lanterns aren't really needed for the most part.
Right, but I also, with Hal's like, no, that's my home though. Like, it's part of the deal.
And having said that, I always want one of the Green Lantern books to be on Earth because I think it's interesting having them on Earth. But so it's actually nice to see. Interesting that Jo's just there because by the end of her book, was she like just part of the Corps normally?
I think so. It's been a minute.
Because she was like different, right? She had a ring from a different source. She was
hers was from a different Guardian, and it went off of, I forget the exact thing, but it didn't charge the same way, which we're also finding in this book too, that something happened to the power battery at the end of the last Green Lantern before these two books started.
Yeah, now it's been fueled by the source wall directly, or whatever. John Stewart set that up.
Right, which I'm wondering if that's the John book that we stopped reading, if that's where that ended up.
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah.
And so I'm wondering too if that's just her, now that her ring's not being powered by the central power battery, she can just join up no matter what. Yeah,
I wonder. So we find that there's a lot less Green Lanterns because the battery can only support so many, so they've kind of trimmed the ranks a little bit. All the Earth Lanterns are still there because they're all good lanterns. It intentionally leaves it a mystery where a lot of them are sent because they all get assigned to other places. So Baz, Joe, Jess, and Kyle, Hal specifically says he doesn't know where they were sent, and I think that's just like an intentional thing so that whenever another writer is given the task of like writing for them, they can just do whatever they want with them. Like, okay, they get sent here. The only one we actually get something for, and it's really just for a joke, is Guy, because Guy's like, I'm not doing anything for you, I won't accept your new assignment. We want you to hunt Lobo. I'm in.
Wait, when do you want him back? That was really good, and it also shows that Adams as a, he knows how to handle Guy. You're not just gonna put him in the corner. He's gonna make a lot of noise. So, if that's wherever he is, and they pick up that story another time, fine by me.
Not that I really want to read a Guy and Lobo story.
Of course you don't. But give me him teaming up with Arkillo to go take out Lobo. Oh man, give that book to Venditti. I'm there.
Yeah, so after this, Hal's still there with the Corps, and he goes with Kilowog as protective detail for, what's the Durlin's name again?
Theros.
Thank you.
It's Thaaros, so I'm thinking it's Theros or Teros, one of the two.
Okay.
But yeah.
They're there to sort of protect him because he's going to Karagar to talk to Sinestro, who of course has also been part of this run, so this might even lead to some of the things that he's up to. But they go there because he wants to talk to Sinestro about Karagar joining the United Planets. So it's like a diplomatic visit, effectively. But while they're there, Sinestro doesn't sound too impressed, but more importantly, there's some Yellow Lantern terrorists that attack during this. And whilst they're fighting them off, Kilowog tries to take on all three of them by himself and eventually gets speared by like just tons and tons of like yellow like spears basically. It's quite a visual seeing him sort of slumped down with all these like some beams of light getting into him.
Yeah, man, that was tragic. Because Kilowog, that's Guy and Kilowog are two of my favorites. So to see him, this is how he goes out, which I still don't fully believe, but we'll get there.
I'm sure there'll be like, some sort of retcon of this or something later on. Hal ends up having to save Theros by flying him away. That's why he's not there to help Kilowog during the fight.
Well, and doesn't Kilowog tell him to go finish the mission, and that's to protect Theros? He goes, I got these three.
Yeah, that's why he flies off with them, but then obviously he comes back and it's too late. Kilowog's already done. And then the end of this backstory, which we don't get like a follow-up to, so there's more to find out here, but it seems like the yellow power battery on Kurragar goes boom. And that maybe explains why Sinestro doesn't have a yellow ring that's working.
Access.
Maybe none of them have working yellow rings right now. So that would make sense given what happened here. So, although I do wonder if the lantern battery exploding, because Kilowog's not actually dead when he gets speared. He's still alive at that point.
He's still alive, and then the yellow power battery explodes, and it seemingly vaporizes all of them.
Yeah, but that's vague enough though that either he might have been shielded from the blast, or maybe the blast just teleported them somewhere, or something like that. So I think it's pretty likely that Kilowog's alive.
Because it feels like that. It feels like there's something going on with all the power batteries.
Well,
right?
that's the final page, is that we cut back to the trailer, the camper van where Hal's staying, and he's telling all this to who we theorized was an indigo lantern.
Someone, Razor is his name.
Yeah. And he says here, I'm here because the power battery on Odom has been destroyed. So that's presumably... If we're right that he's indigo, if that's the right color we're picking.
He's not, he's blue.
Oh, he's blue, sorry. Okay, there you go, fair enough.
So he's a blue lantern. Odium was the home planet.
You didn't know that last time.
So I didn't know what they were going with him as, but apparently he is he's adapted from the cartoon series, and he ends up as a blue lantern there. So I'm wondering if they're using that as the basis.
All right, well... Okay, well, fair enough. I mean, even though I didn't know what color of battery he was referring to, it's like, okay,
still the same.
That's the third. I mean, because the Green Lantern power battery's technically gone. They've just replaced it with something else. The yellow battery's gone, and now it sounds like the Blue Lantern battery's gone. So something's really messing with all the cores. I do wonder if this is all a plan to kind of simplify the Green Lantern mythos again by sort of taking away all the different cores, making it more straightforward again. We'll see what they do with that, but yeah, I mean, this last page is the only page where it's set sort of following up the present day part of the story, which is not a complaint because we've been having these questions as to how Hal ended back up on Earth, what happened to Kilowog, why Sinestro sort of like on his own away from the planet. This issue did a lot to answer a lot of those questions. Yeah,
and also why his ring, like we know he built his ring, but why he's discovering its newer powers and its limits on top of it too. Do
you think that when the previous battery went, that all the energy from it just kind of now exists in the ethos, right? It's just around everywhere.
Probably.
And he's just tapping into it naturally.
Yeah, and I feel like, and that's also in the other book with John doing the kind of similar, that he's able to just tap into his will, right? Because when you find out about his mom and his sister and the constructs that he's making there for his mom, that's not typical Green Lantern energy stuff.
It does.
So I'm wondering if it's just kind of out and free, and they're just able to tap into that free version of it.
It does feel like there's maybe at least a little bit of a game plan here, because it feels like both books will tie into it when they do eventually get to whatever that revealer story is. Yeah,
the fact that Adams used Theros here, and that Theros seems to be the big bad that Johnson has developed, because we also saw him in action, right? Yeah. Towards the end there. It would definitely feel like there's...
And he's also, of course, writing the John Stewart book as well.
And he's writing the John Stewart book, so there's definitely pieces around, and I wouldn't think necessarily a crossover, but I do feel like they're playing in the same sandbox. You know? Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if a Green Lantern mini or event book gets announced with Johnson helming it. Kind of like Beast World with Taylor spanning out a Nightwing. But yeah. No, I mean, I enjoyed this issue. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as maybe the last couple of the issues, because those were more exciting. But, you know, all of this stuff was good backstory that we've been kind of teasing for a while. And it doesn't answer everything. We don't know why the power batteries have exploded. I'm sure that's where the story's going. But it felt like a big, prominent part of the story. Also, worth mentioning here, the 3 yellow lanterns that attacked Theros, Sinestro didn't know about that. Hal's skeptical, but I actually believe him, because I do think it's interesting that they were acting on their own. It wouldn't even surprise me if Theros himself had like orchestrated this. That would be my guess right now.
In order to get more control, because, you know, Korgar's not as in control if Sinestro has rogue Sinestro Corps members. Right? So, but I feel like that's going to blow up in the face when Sinestro and Hal end up teaming up against Theros, just out of spite. You know. But yeah, no, this is some good Green Lantern stuff. I've missed this neck of DC for a while, and the fact that we have 2 decent books at the same time.
Yeah, it would almost be interesting if the reason why Sinestro is... Because he's obviously done some pretty nasty things to try and get home, but I think it's interesting from a motivation point of view if the reason why he's trying to get home is because a corrupt... He's basically been thrown out by a corrupt, like... rebellion,
public government.
Like, well, not even just that, but the idea that his own people from within have usurped him and thrown him out. This idea that his motivation might be to get back to Korrigar to save it, because he's seeing these like bad elements take over it. He may actually have a kind of a noble goal ultimately, despite all the bad things he's been doing to try and get back to Korrigar.
Right, but what if he gets back there and it's a better functioning society and he was holding them back? You think he's going to be okay with that too?
I mean, I don't know if that's what will be happening. We'll see.
Yeah, you know.
I feel like we might get there and like they might have all turned into capitalists or something, and he's going to be like, what is this nonsense?
Well, it's definitely, there's something sinister going on with the United Planets, because we saw in War Journal them go to that planet and immediately start exploiting it, you know, taking all the people, and maybe that's their goal for Korgar too, right? And so it is going to have to be him saving it from the UP.
which ties in. He wants to go save Korrigar from being manipulated and from being preyed upon by the United Planets, or even if they're not just mining it, the idea that there's powers within that have taken control. Either way, I feel like he thinks he needs to save Korrigar, and that's why he wants to get back there. And I think he kind of said something along those lines at some point in this run. But now that we have this context of like there being kind of a... you know, like a sabotage, like a planned attack kind of thing. It does feel like, oh, maybe he does have some genuine reasons to want to go back and save everyone.
Yeah,
even if
that's also why he's working with, because we saw some of the people he was working with are like the dregs of society, space society. Anyways, that would make sense why, because he, you know, he's trying to stay off the radar.
Of course, if he just explained this to Hal rather than trying to murder innocent people on Earth, maybe Hal would went along with it, but
but he's Sinestro's gonna Sinestro, right? He's gonna
very strange. Did you read the backup on this one?
Did not.
Nah, me neither.
No.
I mean, it's because it's just continuing the same thing that it's been doing, so I've not been reading that.
Although next month is Ron Mars coming back to Kyle, so I'll probably be giving that a read.
Okay, I'll give that a whirl. All right. Yep. That's fair. So, all right, what are you giving Green Lantern?
I'm gonna 7.5.
I'm happy to give it the 8. I mean, I don't think it's as great as some of the previous issues, but I think it's been a really essential chapter. I didn't feel robbed that we didn't advance the present day stuff. It felt like all very important building blocks.